Friends, Richard John Beales of Londufern and previously of London died suddenly but peacefully in Regmore Hospital, Inverness, after a long illness borne with strength, dignity and courage on Tuesday the 17th of September. Beloved husband and best friend of Laura, much loved brother of Rosemary, a loving uncle, godfather, and a magnificent friend. We come together today with great sadness at the loss of Richard, someone we knew and loved. We come deeply conscious once again of how short our life is and how we do not know what a day may bring, how painful the loss is of a loved one, and how intensely we can experience a person's absence when they're gone from among us, in what can seem such a final way. We shall remember Richard as a splendid person and a sparkling personality, with a rip-roaring sense of fun and good humor, a vital living presence among us, and a true friend. We shall remember him with pride for his work and for his loving care, for his friendship and affection, for his passions and pastimes, for his staunch opinions and characteristic good humor that tickled us, for his great interest in all of us and how we were doing, and as well as his delight and appreciation of our interest in him. So hand in hand with our sense of loss and sorrow goes an awareness of great gain in having known Richard. We know the world we live in is all too short of so many of Richard's qualities. We want Laura and Rosemary and all in the family circle, as well as his dearest friends, to know that their loss is our loss, their sorrow our sorrow, and their strength our continuing love and friendship. Stuart Stafford penned these words: "The tide of hope approaches us and recedes from us as we stand on the mortal shore. Some of us wait for it to arrive, some chase after it, but we all vanish into the sunset, and our footprints in the sand fade in time. The feet of infants replace ours, and the dance of the tide commences anew." We find ourselves today grateful for all the goodness that life held for Richard, and for all that he was to those who loved him, for everything in his life that reflected goodness and love and the very best of human nature. We are grateful that all previous weakness is for Richard past and forgotten, that death itself lies behind him, no longer to be pondered or feared. So may we keep true in us the love with which we hold each other. We are very grateful today for all the happiness which we have experienced in life, and the happiness which we have chosen even up to this day, for the gift of life itself, for home and friends, for health and strength, for work and nature and beauty. So may our time today, gathering in this way, be such that our fears may be dispelled, our loneliness eased, and our hope reawakened. May we be lifted above and beyond our natural sorrow to the peace and light and constant love that are always surrounding us. I'm going to invite Shirley to come and read for us.
Richard by Laura. I struggled with writing this. I thought it would be easy writing about someone I knew so well and who knew me. I could talk about Richard for days and weeks. We had over 30 years together, spent so much time in each other's company. But putting that down on paper and reflecting the man that Richard is was far harder than I thought it would be. A friend gave me a piece of good advice. She said Richard was like a rose, and I wondered where she was going with this one. Like the flower, she said, he was beautiful and complex and brought joy. But he also had thorns, and it was all of that together that made him such a special and an amazing person. So, with these words in mind and hearing Richard's dulcet tones in my head, for goodness sake, get on with it and stop wasting time. I sat down and had another go. I met Richard in 1989 when I went to work in London after college. Me, a quiet, daft lassie from Glasgow, yes, I was, who knew nothing about life and, although not quite the fully formed person he went on to become, he was certainly a lot more self-possessed, confident and worldly wise than I was, and it was a case of instant mutual dislike. But time passed, and we worked together, and gradually things changed. We got to know each other, and the rest, as they say, is history. Some said, not a chance, wouldn't last, won't last. What did they know? As a boss and a colleague, he was exacting, a stickler for detail. He ruthlessly red-penned my reports in a failed attempt to teach me grammar. He expected people to be the best that they could be, and if you didn't put in the effort, well, then there was trouble. He did not suffer fools gladly, and he let them know. But if you met him halfway, worked hard, took advice and tried, you had a mentor for life. He became the staunchest support you could ever hope to have in your corner. Of course, he wasn't always the greatest at taking advice himself. Well, not at the time that it was given anyway. But he would usually go off, consider, mull things over, and then quietly and with no fuss, adjust and make changes. He always worked hard. Although he'd deny this and say instead that he worked smart. Whatever you called it, he had a very strong work ethic. And he was incredibly disciplined. He didn't always make things easy for himself. He turned his back on university because it just wasn't for him. But that led him to train as an environmental health officer in London, work at NIG in the heyday, in the 70s. Huge fun, he said. Then moving into consultancy, first with the builders, as it was known, then into the city. Despite being successful, the corporate world wasn't for him, and he turned his back on that. both of us being made redundant on the same day, was the push he needed to open his consultancy against all the so-called expert advice at the time. That business has been trading successfully now for 26 years. So much for the experts. Clients old and new, north and south, have been in contact since I broke the news of Richard's death, and I have been humbled by their high regard for him. The same threads run through everything that they said, that they trusted Richard. He was truly reliable, competent. He had a common sense approach, and they liked it. And he got them and their individual needs. I thank you all for your kind messages, funny stories, and support. As a partner in life, he truly was the other half of me. We saw and did so much, and it shaped us together, gave us the strongest bonds and the ability to communicate on such a deep level. Well, it wasn't all smooth, but we all learned through our time together to trust each other absolutely. We laughed and we cried together, and it was truly a wonderful life. And we bickered. Friends who came to dinner one night thought that they should leave, as it was clear to them that there was going to be the most furious row. But this was just a part of how we communicated sometimes, especially when cooking together. And believe me, we each gave as good as we got. We travelled a bit, marrying in Tombstone, Arizona, driving around California, visiting Thailand, Bali, solid rain for 3 weeks, never again. Mauritius as well, as wonderful other places around the UK. So many good times, touring, following the touring car championships, trips with friends, and just spending time together. We both loved Cornwall and even thought of moving there at one time, but it was Scotland and the Highlands that we decamped to when the crowds and the noise of London and Enfield got too much. Coming here was like coming home for Richard. He fell in love with the space and the scenery in the 70s, and he wanted to come back to live amongst trees. He got his wish, and he loved it. Latterly, though, it was one of his biggest frustrations that he couldn't enjoy the garden he loved. As a brother, I am sure he was as much a trial as a delight, particularly when he managed to blow himself up with a shell casing he was working on. That exploded. This was in his firework days, whilst still at school. At the time, his main concern wasn't that his sister had to remove the shrapnel and clean up all of the blood. No, he was worried about what his parents would say if they found his shirt shredded. His firework days. What can be said about that? The obvious is that it wouldn't happen now. It couldn't possibly. School ignited, no pun intended, a love of chemistry, particularly the chemistry of fireworks and anything that went bang. As a teenager, he was granted an MOD license to buy the ingredients he and his friend Peter needed to make their own fireworks and put on a display for friends and families. Of course, it wasn't always so innocent. Over the years, I have heard many stories of the mischievous rebel we all know and love, putting gentian olive in the school swimming pool to make it change colour. Well, that was probably one of the most benign pranks. As a friend, I am told he was constant, loyal, and there when you needed him. Friendships were precious to Richard, and he had amazing and lasting friendships from every stage of his life. Friends from his pre-me, pre-Laura life became friends as well. His first marriage to Terry sadly ended, but she remained a lifelong friend of us both. Over time, the circle expanded, and we moved through our life together, met people, got to know partners and families as well. Moving up here, we met so many amazing people, and the circle expanded even more. He acknowledged that sometimes he was pretty rubbish at keeping in touch. He didn't really like phone conversations, and he hated it when I dragged him into WhatsApp video calls. He liked to be in person, face to face. But the friendships he made were deep. Time and distance didn't seem to matter. Once back together, conversation, jokes, and laughter picked up where they had been left, sometimes many years before. He also loved a nickname, and if he christened you with one, you knew about it. Chris became Lizard, or Liz for short. He says, just don't ask, but Richard became Dickie to Chris and his wife Jan. Jane became Mrs. Merton, and Mike became the Doc. I, of course, was Laddie. There are so many memories crowding into my mind as I write this, so much laughter, and Richard loved to laugh. At Rosemary and Hugh's house, he hadn't seen his sister for such a long time, but they ended up sitting on the floor in front of the fire, crying with laughter over something or other from the past. The times he laughed so much he was incapable of speech, persuading the optician to give me Groucho Marx glasses with the thickest lenses you've ever seen, instead of the proper ones I had ordered, just to see how I'd react, and of course that went badly. Lazy wine-filled afternoons, too many to relate, in gardens with friends, or in pubs, or in wine bars. Building snowmen with Dawn and Stefan in the garden here at Londu. The snow lady ended up far too well endowed, and her bosoms fell off during the night. The Saturday lunchtime group at the Saint, trying to out-pedant each other. Well, the men at least. We women are far too sensible for that. The day he went to the Saint for the first time, after a long absence for cancer treatment, and he was met with so much love and friendship. He really missed his Saturday lunchtimes with friends, and he was bowled over by his welcome back. Our final trip together to Cornwall last year, sitting in the sun, watching the water and spending time with people we hadn't seen for ages. We thought there would be a few more times like that. Friends and family have been so generous with their love and support over the past days, and I thank you all so very much. You are so generous with the stories and memories you shared, too many to include here, but here are just a couple.
David, who's known Richard since they were both small boys at Highgate School, wrote, "He was such a good and constant friend. We laughed so much together over the years. With a certain rebelliousness and irreverence, he laughed at the school and its antics. Remembered also as an accomplished prankster. An example, one lunchtime, Richard and Peter Janes mined Highgate School's central hall with small explosives, which they had made and called amorsets, set off by treading on them, causing great amusement among the students, but panic amongst the masters. I don't think they ever identified the culprits. On another occasion, the two of us met up while dutifully walking to school for the last day of term, but then agreed it was all a waste of time, which it was, and turned back round and got a cup of coffee in Golders Green, a far better way to spend the morning. It got me into trouble, but knowing him, he probably got away with it. Chris, who came to stay only a month ago while on a trip back from Australia, wrote, "We met in our early 30s when we both joined Boring in the city. I think we hit it off as we had a similar sense of humor and relaxed approach to work and life in general, which has pretty much remained the same throughout, and I think stood us both in good stead. His lasting impact on Jan and my lives has been one of joy and much laughter, quite often over a glass or two of wine, discussing the most incredibly wide range of topics which Dickie was always well informed of and gracious about. Jan and I were as disappointed as many of his friends and family when he and Larry decided to move to Fern, and I selfishly told them that we wouldn't visit because holidays were too short to risk not getting a warm sunblast. It took us to moving to sunny Australia in 2012 to finally make a visit, although we did catch up with Larry and him in the meantime, particularly on one memorable, long, warm, sunny, laughter-filled afternoon outside a London wine bar. Once we finally made it to Fern, it was clear why Dickie and Larry chose to live there and were so settled and happy. Dickie was one of our few select guests at our tiny wedding 35 years ago, when he took formal and informal photos. Dickie was one of my very best and favorite friends and will be missed sorely by Jan and I. However, our enduring friendship with Larry, as well as the wedding photos and other snaps of our times together, will continue to give us happy times and memories, where Dickie and infectious laughter will still be with us."
Finally, courage and bravery are two words that I will always associate with Richard. He had the moral courage to be truthful and direct with those around him. He was always his own man and true to himself, and while this didn't always make for an easy life, I respected him enormously for it and learned so much myself, including how to be truthful and true in return. He also had the bravery to deal with life's knocks, look upon them square in the face and kick the crap out of them. These qualities, along with his unfailing humour and his strength of character, sometimes called the Beales stubbornness, were sorely tested in the last few years as Richard fought battle after battle for his health. I am in awe of how he dealt with each and everything that was thrown at him. He had his down days, days when he was grumpy, fed up and frustrated, but he never felt sorry for himself, never stopped trying and pushing, and he fought like a lion, getting through surgery after surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, extended ill health, a massive and life-changing operation, and lastly, a broken hip. Ultimately and suddenly, it was too much, and the big heart that made him such an amazing and special person couldn't carry on. I am lost without him. He made me a better person, and he truly was the better half of me. But the memories that I have and that we all share will be always with me, and I am looking forward to a time in the future when we can unpack them together and share them again, maybe over a wine or two, and bring him back to life. Richard, by Laura.
We're going to take a moment or two now just for a quiet reflection on the words we've heard in our own memories of Richard as we listen to Skyline Pigeon, sung by Judith Durham.
Turn me loose from your hands. Let me fly high to distant lands, over green fields, trees and mountains, flowers and forest fountains, home along the lanes of the skyways. For this dark and lonely room projects a shadow cast in gloom, and my eyes are mirrors of the world outside, thinking of the way that the wind can turn the tide, and these shadows change from purple into grey, for just this skyline pigeon dreaming of the open, praying for the day when she can spread her wings and fly away again. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Just let me wake up in the morning to the smell of new mown hay, to laugh and cry and live and die in the brightness of my day. I want to hear the pealing sound of distant church bells ring. But most of all, please free me from this aching metal ring and open up this cage towards the sun. For just this skyline pigeon dreaming of the open, praying for the day when he can spread his wings and fly away again. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind.
You can shed tears that he's gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he's gone, or you can cherish him in memory and let that memory live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he'd want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Friends, we can be always grateful for the love that reaches us through the people around us, for the light that brightens our lives as it is reflected in the faces of those around us, and the kindness that comes to us through hearing a word of promise or comfort on the lips of a person near to us. Such was our experience of Richard. Our memories of him will be happy ones, uplifting in every way, bringing a smile to our faces and a spring to our steps. May we be prepared to release Richard into the mystery of whatever it is that lies beyond death. May there be comfort for those who mourn, a tower of strength and help as they reach forward in their lives. We hope this especially for Laura and all those whose loss is deepest. With that thought, I want to read these words of Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort, without the ghost of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. there is absolute, unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. As expressed in our order of service, I want to say to all of you on behalf of the families, thank you so much for coming to stand with them today in this service. Your presence here means a great deal to them. There is an opportunity today to give a donation towards Maggie's and also to the Scottish Ambulance Service, the Tain branch. And Laura and the family have asked me to say, after the interment that we were going to go to now in a moment or two in the Kilmuir Easter Cemetery, everyone is invited to come back and join them at St. Duthas Hotel in Tain for refreshments. As you're able, I invite you now to please stand. May you, each and every one of you, have the blessing of being consoled and sure about your own death. May you know in your soul that there is no need to be afraid. When your time comes, may you be given every shelter that you need. May there be a beautiful welcome for you in the home that you are going to. You are not going somewhere strange. You are going back to the home that you never left. May you have a wonderful urgency to live your life to the full. May you live compassionately and creatively and transfigure everything that is negative within you and about you. When you come to die, may it be after a long life. May you be peaceful and happy in the presence of those who really care for you. May your going be sheltered and your welcome assured. And may your soul smile in the embrace of your soul friend.
Shall I tell you about my life? They say I'm a man of the world. I've flown across every tide. I've seen lots of pretty girls. I guess I've got everything I need. I wouldn't ask for more. There's no one I'd rather be. But I just wish I had never been born.
And now, friends, forasmuch as Richard Beales, as we knew him, is no longer among us, and he no longer wants nor needs his physical body, we return his body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, having our confidence and hope that all those we love become a part of us, interfused with mind and memory, hallowed forever within our souls. So let not grief take away our hope, or bereavement blind us to what remains good and lovely and indestructible. When we first entered this life, we were given the light of our eyes, and we were granted the gift to be born. Surely we were not formed for darkness and death, but rather that with all our hearts we should live, and little by little be led by the hand to more and more of that life, opening and opening, and yet opening even more to what makes us all truly human. So may we be supported all the day long, until the shadows lengthen and the evening comes, and the busy world is hushed, and the fever of life is over, and our work is done. Then in the grace and love that surround us all, may we be granted safe lodging, a gentle rest, and peace at the last. The words of Robert Burns come to me in reference to Richard, an epitaph on my own friend, he wrote. An honest man here lies at rest, as ere God with his image blessed. The friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age, and guide of youth. Few hearts like his, with virtue warmed, few heads with knowledge so informed. Is there another world? If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, he made the best of this. And so, Laura, Rosemary, family, friends, may you know that absence is full of tender presence, and that nothing is ever lost or forgotten. May the absences in your life be full of eternal echo. May you sense around you the secret elsewhere, which holds the presences that have left your life. May you be generous in your embrace of loss. May the sore of your grief turn into a well of seamless presence. May your compassion reach out to those ones we never hear from, and may you have the courage to speak up for the excluded ones. May you become the gracious and passionate subject of your own life. May you not disrespect your mystery through brittle words or false belonging. Rather, may you be embraced by the one in whom dawn and twilight are one, and may your longing inhabit its deepest dreams within the shelter of the great belonging.